Hey everybody, it's Matt, Wrestling with Whiskey, back with a unique lineup from the Glendronach single malt Scotch whiskies. What we have here is batch 18 of the acclaimed Glendronach Cask Bottling. This is the first time that the United States has gotten this release. God bless America. So there are 4 different bottlings here, each with a different cask type and different age and different ABV. So instead of tasting these just 1 through 4 and giving notes, I figured these were all such exceptional casks, I wanted to pick my favorite, not knowing how old it was or what the cask type was. So we're going to see what kind of role that ABV or age or what type of cask really play a role in what we like. Age is just a number, ladies and gentlemen, remember that. So let's go ahead and dive into the Glendronach Cask Bottling Series 18. Now, before we get into this, we should denote what each bottling is, though, just so you have an idea of what we're diving into. So I'm going to read directly from the press release here. So coming up first, we have a 2008 cask that's 3017. It is 12 years. It is an Oloroso sherry cask. It is 59.8% ABV, and it is an SRP of $120. Next, we have a 2005 cask 1928 that is 14 years. It is a PX sherry cask. It is 58% ABV with an SRP of $150. Coming up next, we have a 1994 cask 5287. It is 26 years old, big jump in age. It is a port cask aging, 51.3% ABV with an SRP of $415. But not to be outdone, finally we have 1993 cask 7102, 27 years old, an Oloroso sherry cask maturation, 51.4% ABV, and 27 years old. These have been blinded. They are in front of me. Let's dive in. Coming up, sample number 1. I do not know what this is. All of these have a beautiful, beautiful color on them. Honey. Not heavy on the fruit. Lots of honey on there. Sugar, a little bit of grape. I take it back. Now we're getting some fruit by the foot on there almost. A little bit of light apple in there, almost like green apple. This one, a lot of pepper on this one. Spicy, walnuts, vanilla. Not a ton of fruit on the palate either, but let me see if I can go back to it. A little bit of leather, grain, like a bitter grass kind of note. Some light citrus in there. Overall, very pleasant. Spicier than I was expecting. I never expect a ton of like pepper spice from single malts, and that one kind of woke me up. Let's move on to sample number 2. Sample number 2, dark as tons of grape. Oh my goodness gracious. Makes me think it's probably one of the older ones. It's just got that deep, rich, dark fruit cascading all over the nose here. Super easy to nose too. There's not a lot of ethanol, not a lot of alcohol coming up and punching you. So it's very, it has been mellowed by age for a while. But I have been fooled before. Honey melon, honeydew melon kind of notes, dark, burnt sugars almost. Syrupy Luxardo cherries almost. Light spice. Bitter blueberry, like crumb cake. This one, I'm getting some notes of sherry. This might be one of the Olorosos in here. Although there are 3 sherry finishes here. 2 Oloroso, 1 PX. Could be any of them. But I'm getting more of that nutty Oloroso sherry. Much drier on the palate than you would expect from that really rich nose. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I like the differences. I just don't like when the palate just drops off. Very light finish on this one too, albeit very like drying, nutty, light fruit on the finish, but not overly lingering. I would call it medium, so maybe it's not super old. I don't know. I'm very curious. Let's move on to number 3. Sample number 3. This one's lighter with like, this is back to like sugary honey, like almost like white grapes, champagne kind of notes. A little bit of like almondy kind of notes in there as well. But Honeycrisp, I get this a lot on certain scotches, like Honeycrisp apple. It's like that light but sweet and like rich. Light dances on your tongue and on the roof of your mouth, mid palate. Nice light spice, like a bitter toffee with a little bit again of that kind of like light apple or like white grape sort of thing. Lot of wine. I mean, again, these are all wine finishes, but like this one has like white wine notes, which is interesting because they're all red wine casks, you know, between the sherry and the port. I'm not getting a lot of port here. So watch this end up being the port maturation. Like that is refreshing almost. Like I could drink that on a hot summer day. It's layered, but yeah, it's light, crisp, and spicy. I like that a lot. Moving on to the final sample. Sample number 4. Ooh, this one doesn't have the darkest color, but man, is that nose rich. Candied walnuts almost. Dark cocoa almost. Again, kind of baking sugar in there is kind of cool too. It's very confectioner kind of bit. This is reminding me like a baked good. More fruit kind of starting to kick out, but still with this like rich confectioner sugar. A lot of spice, more spice than I expected. Starts really kicking at the front of the palate. Nice, watery, almost like in a good way, like makes my mouth water for more. Light spice, kind of dissipates quickly. But man, the punch up front is the most out of any of these so far. And it's a really nice warming of the mouth. Cherries and warm cake, again, carrying over from the nose. Ooh, this is going to be a tough one. I think 2 and 4 were my favorite. But let's try to go through these. One final little snippet of each. All right, here's my final, I think, lineup. Yep, from least favorite to favorite, we're going 1, 4, 3, 2. So all the way over here is my favorite. My least favorite, these were all fantastic. So let's find out what they were. So sample number 1, my least favorite, ended up being the youngest one, the 2008 cask. This is a 12-year Oloroso sherry finish. Or not finish, Oloroso sherry maturation, $120. Sample number 2, in third place, wow, was the 1994 cask. That's the 26-year port maturation, $415. Came in third. Very curious about these final two. So second place, that was the 05. So that's the 14-year PX finish, which means our number 1 was indeed the 1990, which you could tell. It was just dark. It was rich. That Oloroso was on there for sure. Those almondy notes, confectioner sugar, things like that. Incredible, all of them. The first time the U.S. has gotten this full series. I would like to thank Glendronach for sending these samples. We were, of course, not compensated for our opinion, but I appreciate them giving us a chance to give our honest and real thoughts on these. Was not asked to blind these. I thought that would be a fun way to do it. It shows you that age isn't always everything. There's so much that goes into whiskey. So always be exploring cask types. Always be exploring different ABVs, different price points, different ingredients, all kinds of things across this crazy whiskey world. And always be wrestling with whiskey.